Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome. Good afternoon to everyone who has joined us so far. Thank you for joining us and during our Classworks Fall Virtual Summit. This year, we're going to be doing a virtual passport, and you have the opportunity to win a $100 Amazon gift card. It's very simple. Basically, any session that you join at the beginning, you will check in via the link that I have provided in chat. And each session you attend will give you a stamp on your virtual passport, and each stamp counts towards another entry into the raffle. We will send out the certificate with your stamps once the summit has ended, so you'll get that either at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. But the more sessions you attend, the more stamps you receive, and the more chances you have to win. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me during chat. My name is Kellen. I'm going to be facilitating this session. So if you have any questions throughout the duration of this session, please feel free to put your question in the chat. You can do it public with everyone, or you can privately message me, whatever you prefer. But I am here to answer any of those questions that you might have. And now I'll turn it over to Judy.
Thanks, Kellen. Yep, good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited to be here. I'm Judy Teven, and with me is Melissa Sinanu, and we are excited to be hosting this session about integrating your Classworks implementation with your social and emotional learning, or SEL curriculum. And, you know, like Kellen said, we've got our Classworks team here. If you have any questions along the way, please just go ahead and throw those into chat. We'll be monitoring that, and then we'll also take a few minutes at the very end of the session to have a little question and answer time. All right, so we're going to dive in with just a little bit of background. So CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, describes the benefits when SEL is central to the educational process. The outcome is that teachers are creating classrooms where students are engaged, respected, and empowered, and where they succeed academically. So what is that result? That result is academic achievement, graduation rates, and attendance are going up, and suspensions and disciplinary incidents are going down. Key to this school year is creating this atmosphere, whether learning is happening at school or at home, right? This is such an important undertaking, and regardless of where your district is on their SEL journey, we really do applaud your efforts. In this session, we will discuss how Classworks can effectively augment your social and emotional learning efforts.
So first, what is social and emotional learning? You can see the definition here on the slide, but in a nutshell, these are the tools that both children and adults use in social interactions and to manage everyday emotional responses. Things like social awareness, setting goals, and taking responsibility for oneself are imperative to maintaining healthy relationships and practicing self-care. So CASEL's framework includes 5 core competencies. We will look at each one and determine how to maximize your Classworks implementation to also support student SEL development. All recommendations do take into account the idea that learning this school year is likely a hybrid model of virtual and in-person learning. So the 5 core competencies are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So as we progress through the core competencies in our discussion, you'll see that they build on one another. So let's start with self-awareness. Self-awareness includes recognizing one's emotions and thoughts and their influence on behavior. It encompasses accurately assessing one's own strengths, limitations, and biases. Self-awareness also focuses on developing a well-grounded sense of confidence, optimism, and a growth mindset. So this even comes into play when we think about subjects that may require more resilience to learn. How many people do you know that will tell you they're not a math person because it was a class they struggled in at school? It's important to remember that just because something is harder to learn, it does not mean you can't effectively learn and apply those principles your whole life. So Classworks is really the perfect place to work with students on self-awareness and to foster that academic mindset. So why is that? Well, while interventions are typically scored, they're often also a non-graded environment where students gain confidence as they begin closing gaps and experiencing success in their learning. They're experiencing success because they are working on instruction that is customized or individualized to specifically meet their needs.
So individualized interventions can play an enormous role in establishing self-awareness. Providing students with an individualized learning experience means that their unique assessment data is informing the activities that they're working on. So in other words, students are engaging with skills that are most relevant to them. This is a time when learning can be at a student's own pace, which can be a significant stress reliever for students who constantly feel behind their classmates in the regular classroom.
So if possible, the intervention that you adopt should place every student along a learning progression at exactly the right level, exactly like we see in Classworks, because ideally it specifically turns on the skills that are right for them. Now, it's also important that student interaction with these skills is not taught the same way their core curriculum taught it when they didn't learn it the first time. That can be really self-defeating for students. Ideally, the intervention should approach the skills from multiple angles and allow multiple ways to demonstrate mastery of the skill. This teaches the student that maybe I didn't learn it the way the curriculum taught it last year, but I can learn it, and I learned it now. So Classworks is a much more effective way to build student confidence, see students experience success and close learning gaps than, for example, one standard intervention to a smaller group of students. And this is because with Classworks, all learning is individualized for each student. They develop confidence almost immediately as they work at their own pace on the exact skills they are ready to learn. This learning takes place anywhere they have a device and access to the internet. And furthermore, as you know, each skill unit in Classworks includes multiple approaches to a single skill and multiple ways to demonstrate mastery of a skill. So what you see on screen is two different activities in a single skill unit. You can see how different the two engagements are with the skill. And then this success multiplies on itself as learning gaps are closed, students continue to gain confidence, and ultimately begin to experience success in the classroom. So a strong awareness of self is the first step towards social and emotional learning. Because once students have self-awareness, they will naturally better be able to develop the next core competency, self-management.
Self-management includes regulating one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors effectively in different situations. This involves managing stress, controlling impulses, motivating oneself, and setting and working toward personal and academic goals. Incorporating motivation and goal setting into your academic intervention program really helps students develop self-management. Classworks has built in ways for students to set goals, celebrate accomplishments, both at that granular level and with a weekly goal.
Goal setting is so important. And there are some real benefits in using a program that gives students autonomy over their goal setting. You want something that goes beyond just celebrating every skill learned with a game. For example, a student in Classworks may set a goal for 1 week to master 3 new skills, then realize that wasn't realistic for themselves. Then they modify this to 2 skills the following week. This is a great way to see a student begin to develop self-awareness and then effectively manage achieving their own goals each week, including making those modifications along the way.
So in Classworks, goal setting for students can be as simple as the student dashboard with a weekly time and mastery goal setting that's just built in. The MyScores dashboard in Classworks gives students an at-a-glance view of their progress toward those weekly goals that we keep talking about. As they make progress towards those goals, they earn a variety of badges and characters. Teaching students how to monitor their own progress, set goals, and make adjustments where needed really gives them ownership and accountability. This provides something very critical for students: more control over their learning, and important support when they may feel out of control in other areas of their lives. Now, teachers also use the student dashboard to conference with students. Now, this is a time to recognize their incremental accomplishments, but celebrate them in front of their peers or their parents. And because it's digital, everyone has access no matter where the learning is happening. To more officially recognize students, Classworks also has great certificates. As teachers monitor student rewards, they can print those certificates and celebrate student success.
A digital dashboard for motivation and goal setting is an important aspect of self-management. But students also benefit from keeping what's traditionally called a notebook for academic and personal goal setting. Sometimes referred to as a data notebook, but we're going to call it goal tracking, is a student-facing tool to build student ownership of goals, performance, and ultimately learning.
So here is a sneak peek of the development effort currently underway. It's a digital goal tracking. So the What's New with Classwork session we actually are having Thursday, we'll dive into this even in a little bit more detail. But here you can see that this will be like a new module and also in all of our new colors, which we're really excited about too. Students set goals for themselves and track their strategies, confidence, progress for every goal. Teachers can give feedback here and encouragement all along the way. Sometimes these are academic, but sometimes they're not at all. Like for younger students, teachers can set the goal for a whole class, and then students can comment on their progress and respond with their confidence and attitude with just emojis. Goal tracking builds student ownership and offers a sense of control over those outcomes. Now, today at Classworks, our students, you may have seen some using the Student Success Notebook to set a goal each week and write out those strategies for how they're going to meet that goal. So this slide offers another peek at the student view of their goals that's going to be inside the platform instead of, a printed version. Students will write out the goal, how they'll know if they have met the goal, and the strategies that they'll employ to meet that goal.
So you see here a little more detailed view of the student actions and teacher communication. Again, there is a session on Thursday the 29th that will show you a few more features and benefits of this exciting addition to Classworks.
So far we've talked about self-awareness and self-management. So now let's segue to relating to others through social awareness. Social awareness is the ability to take the perspective of and empathize with others, including those from diverse backgrounds and cultures. This includes the ability to understand social and ethical norms for behavior and to recognize family, school, and community resources and supports. Social awareness includes perspective taking, empathy, appreciating diversity, and a big one to me, respect for others. Building social awareness with students in your class can really be challenging. Teachers work daily to make all students feel valued and value each other. Respect and empathy are vital to creating this type of environment. So, what happens when students start noticing the difference in their learning abilities? These differences often break down respect for their peers and can even bring on bullying, right? So, how do you address this? One of the recommendations that Castle has for teachers is to use dynamic, flexible grouping in the classroom. And what I mean here is that small groups for students, if possible, should dynamically shift as the concepts you are teaching shift. So teachers can use the Universal Screener Grouping Report to determine how they will organize small groups for specific lessons, say every 9 weeks. This report groups the students' performance on specific domains together. So let's say that you're teaching a lesson on measuring lengths in inches and feet. This falls into the domain of measurement. So here you have your 3 groups. This group in the 200 to 250 range will likely need some prerequisite skills, such as choosing the non-standard unit and using it to estimate, measure, compare, and order various objects, something like that. Understanding where your students are when approaching concepts really can guide instruction.
And remember, flexible grouping can be applied for skills being introduced virtually and skills being introduced in the classroom.
Exactly. So where else does social awareness come into play with an academic intervention? Students are perceptive. They know when they are working on instruction that varies from their peers. And it's likely that many students at different baselines and are working on a variety of skills in your classroom, right? Students need to feel comfortable taking risks, asking for help. Teachers have the task of creating that inclusive, safe environment, both in the classroom and online now, and what we're living with right now. And that is really just not easy. As students discover each other's strengths and how they can help each other, the strength of the group will build. Open discussions and demonstrations of appreciation build respect for others.
So Judy makes a great point about the classroom environment, especially during your core or tier 1 instruction, but intervention times will look a little different. A helpful practice is to establish specific intervention/enrichment periods where each student works on individual skills. By including that time each day for students to work independently on learning specifically for them, students gain perspective that we can all be learning the same thing in one class and very different things in other classes. And then making sure that the individualized learning period is part of both the in-school and virtual learning.
Yeah, this individualized learning class period is a great opportunity for discussion with students. Be open with the fact that even though they're all in the same grade, in some classes they'll be learning the same things as their peers, and in others they will work on lessons that are really unique to them. This fosters awareness that every student's journey is just a little different, right? This builds awareness that each student has unique needs and really will foster empathy with each other. It also removes negativity that they may feel that they're working on something different from their friends.
So now let's look at the last two tenets of SEL. These are really a culmination of the other competencies and have a less tangible link to Classworks, but we will still spend just a few minutes on them. These are relationship skills and responsible decision making. So first, relationship skills. These are defined as the ability to establish and maintain healthy and rewarding relationships with diverse individuals and groups. The ability to communicate clearly, listen well, cooperate with others, resist inappropriate social pressure, negotiate conflict constructively, and seek and offer help when needed. So essentially, it boils down to the 4 bullets on the screen: communication, social engagement, relationship building, and teamwork. So teachers are continually working with students on these skills throughout the day and throughout the year. Classworks individualized learning time may actually be an opportunity for students to put their headphones on and simply concentrate on themselves and their learning. This can be calming for many students who get overstimulated in the ongoing group dynamics of the school day, both in person and over Zoom. However, there is at least one CASEL recommendation that we felt could be applied here. So CASEL specifically calls out the benefits of having one member of a pair describe a situation to his partner and have the partner repeat what he or she heard. This is an effective tool for students working on reflective listening. Now, back to that individualized learning period. Depending on where you are in your SEL implementation, you may have students share with a peer what the most important skill they learned that week was and why. Not only will it develop reflective listening, but it also promotes the idea that all skills are important. We must emphasize and embrace the diversity of learning as it happens.
And this also reminds me how important it is that the Classworks intervention program believes the student, the intervention, and the teacher are all equal parts of that equation. Make sure that students and teachers are talking regularly and often about student learning as they progress along in the intervention. As Classworks teachers, you probably already use the Individualized Learning dashboard to filter data to see which students are struggling. Teachers then conference with students, reassign instruction, and offer feedback. Now, Classworks professional development trains teachers on how to conduct these regular quick conferences, giving students real-time actionable feedback. A conference may look like a high five, a quick text, a teacher working through an activity with a student, or the two of them having a more formal data discussion. If you aren't sure of the specific guidelines or want to talk about it with a member of our CNI team, don't forget that we have free Connect sessions, and you can schedule to talk through some of these best practices in your classroom with them. And we'll talk about that at the end if anyone wants to know how to do that.
And also, when we consider teamwork, many schools establish class goals for number of units that will be completed in a week or a month at a certain percentage, right? Students and teachers cheer each other on as they work to meet and exceed these goals. So finally, let's move into responsible decision-making. Responsible decision-making is the ability to make constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions based on ethical standards, safety concerns, and social norms. The realistic evaluation of consequences of various actions and a consideration of the well-being of oneself and others. So this includes identifying problems, analyzing situations, solving problems, evaluating, reflecting, and finally, ethical responsibility. So in our research and reading, we agree this is the penultimate core competency, right? The payoff of developing SEL results in responsible life decisions using the criteria in this definition. Your academic interventions are unlikely to directly tie to making constructive choices based on this criteria. However, the groundwork you have laid working with students is representative of the process they will undertake for non-academic decisions. For example, thinking about identifying problems and analyzing situations. As students have set weekly goals throughout the year and reflected on each week, they begin to develop a sense of what works for their learning and what environments are not as successful for them. As they begin to see what works for themselves, what types of goals are attainable, and how they feel if they set unrealistic goals and don't meet them, they begin to appreciate that there is a process for most things that we encounter in life. Thinking about evaluating and reflecting. Data tracking offers a great place to track when and why they had successful weeks versus the environment when they had less successful weeks. The teacher can also help students make the connection between the process of closing learning gaps to decision-making about personal behaviors and behavior toward others. So today we have discussed intertwining Classworks with all the core competencies of SEL. But no matter what your focus is, all SEL practices require an easy way to document academic and behavior growth for students, including positive and negative behaviors. So many of you probably already have PBIS in place. With PBIS, student behaviors are tracked and discussed with students and SST members regularly. Many districts use a student observations form to make sure student behavior and engagement is documented throughout the day.
So in Classworks, teachers have a student observation section that you see here that includes an academic and behavior checklist and an area to add notes for documentation. Teachers use this to document positive and negative behaviors and really any overall observations for their students. Multiple teachers are able to contribute to these reports, giving a real well-rounded picture of how the student is doing throughout the day. And it's sort of nice that the student is required to keep this in their student folders and then have the teacher write in it at the end of the class period, right? So for those of you who logged into Classworks, you can access this from either your Individualized Learning or your Progress Monitoring tab. Once you launch the student detail, you can view all of their previous observations and add anything that you'd like. Remember, the students also see these. These are transparent to the student. And these can also be printed and used as part of PBIS, MTSS, and student SST meetings.
So social and emotional learning is especially important this school year. If you can successfully integrate the programs that you use for core curriculum, your Classworks for closing gaps, and enrichment with the SEL initiatives in your school or district, you really increase the likelihood that students will embrace and apply these competencies at school and ultimately at life.
We hear from you all the time, from you guys about using Classworks as a support for SEL practices. And we have appreciated all your feedback, which has really allowed us to make enhancements to Classworks to meet student and teacher SEL needs. But if you would like to talk any more about how Classworks can integrate with your SEL initiatives, please reach out to us and we'll be glad to sit down with you. We would love to talk about it. We really appreciate all of your time. We really hope you found this content relevant and most importantly, actionable. So we still have our passport.
Thank you so much, Judy. Yeah, and I got a couple of questions in chat, so I will go over that. Definitely make sure you get checked in. I can put the check-in link back in just in case you missed it. We want everyone to be able to get their passport stamped and be in the running for some fun giveaways. And before we go to the questions, I'm also going to go through real quick the AllStar Contest, which will begin next Monday. From November 1st to March 1st, our annual AllStar competition will begin. The top 500 students with the highest time on task and over 80% mastery will be awarded a very fun surprise next year. But we also have mini contests too. And I'll put the link to the contest page in the chat, but there's ways for teachers to win. We have a student incentive contest. We also have a really fun writing contest this year for the students. So definitely keep an eye out for that on our social media and our blog. And then of course, we'll have some pop-ups come through within Classworks as well. So let's see, let's get to some of these. We had a couple of really good questions that a couple people asked. So when you were talking about the student observations, can you see what that looks like in real time by chance?
Sure, I've got it right here. So this is, well, and I'll back it up. This is Audrey Alexander. So if you've got, you can bring this up again by your class or by an individual student if you know their name. If you're going into Classworks, you're looking, you want to see all of their data, right? So their test data, individualized learning. Well, here you see we've got observations, right? So here's where you can view them, all of that. But what's really great, here, I'm going to move your faces. So you can add your observations. Of course, this is just where you're going to put in all of those comments and your dates and where the student was and all of that. And then you also have this print option, which I just think is fantastic because it just really lays everything out in a really nice, neat format. And this is perfect for all of your, I mean, of course, documentation, but showing up those meetings is great. So that's perfect. And it's also, let me jump over here. It's also in progress monitoring. So either one of these places is a place to do that. We know that not only the students in Tier 2 and Tier 3 are then who you're normally progress monitored will have observations. Other students are involved too. So we put it in both places just in case. And so here we go. Here's Audrey again, and here's her observations.
And is that how it would look on the student side as well?
All right, so we don't even have to log into a student. If we go over here to badges, over here you can see view student score URL. So this is a great, let's say that you were conferencing with a student, just having that quick little chat with them for a minute. You wouldn't even have to have them log in. You could do that from your teacher view. Go to view student URL and you'll go right to their scores. So you can even chat with the student about it from this perspective. And then here are those observations right here. And you can pull that, look at all of them, or you can scroll through them. Either way you want to do that. So always here for the students to be able to see. And again, we want them to be thinking about what am I working on? What goal am I setting? And then they're able to see if they're really achieving that. And then again, having that conversation with that teacher or mentor or whoever's working with the student on these behavior goals.
Perfect for student accountability. Love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another question. I was not aware that you guys did grouping. Can you go a little bit deeper into the grouping aspect?
Sure. So the way to access this report or to actually get this data is you would have to be taking the universal screener. So this is a universal screener report. So this is all based off of that. And again, this is all impacting the students' individualized learning. But when you're in Classworks, let's go back over here. You access any of your data that you need from a Classworks assessment within individualized learning, again, because it's going back to impact that student, right? That student information. So you're going to pick your student just like you normally would. You're just going to generate that report. So we're going to see it. It is you've got choices between an instruction and assessment. We're going to pick our screener, and then we're going to go, and here's your grouping right there as your type. And then we're going to go next. Again, you can see it if you're just running it for one student, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but you could get your scores.
Yeah, decide how to group
you could actually get it for them for just the one, but we're doing grouping. So anyway, yeah, I shouldn't have just done one student. That was silly. But so you can do your class, and then I've got to move your faces again. And then you go preview. What it would give you for an individual student is a score for a specific score for each of their domains. So which is what is going to go back into that grouping. Okay. Which I was going to show up. So yep. And there's all their scores. So just her own scores, but same kind of concept.
Perfect. All right. And then only one last question. How do you schedule a Connect session that you were speaking to?
Perfect. All right. So we're going to go over here. You will go to where your name is a drop down, right? And you've got some choices here. You'll have professional learning. So go to professional learning. All of your online classes, all of our courses are here, and you have access to these all the time. They are free all the time. And then if you could just keep scrolling down, there it is. So you've got Classworks Connect. It describes what this is, like what is a Connect session. So you think about, I have a specific question, let's say about how to do conferencing and utilize observations with that. Then as you pick your date, you'll go down here, you'll pick about a 30-minute time window, and then you'll be able to do that and be able to look at that. So you can put your calendar up and know is it just for me? Is it for my grade level together? You can use it from any kind of perspective like that. Just a few minutes to get some real detailed information about that.
That is super convenient. And then, of course, we're always at hello@classworks.com, and or you can utilize the blue chat bubble in the bottom right corner. So you can get to us immediately at any time. Yeah. Well, perfect. Thank you, Judy. I don't have any other questions, but we can stick around for another minute or two just in case anyone would like to chat further about something. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Judy.
Thanks.